What's up guys, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Divine. I'm a musical choir, minominak, drummer and a keyboardist. I have been for many years. I started making these videos as a space for music lovers like myself to check out our favorite artists and break down some of our findings that make them so fantastic. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Perseverance Reaction in order to recommend your favorite singers for us to react to. Hey, you killed it. What's up YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. Today guys, we're back here to the video guys. I'm your man lovely guest.
Wilhelmina?
Yep. Today guys, we're gonna be reacting to Jordan Peterson most savage comeback highlights to compilation. You know Jordan Peterson? Yeah. This one can never be hidden.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. So we'd love to check out this video. You know how it is guys. We'll talk less about it or yet more. Let's get into this video.
How much responsibility do you feel that you have, particularly guys the alt-right, who, as you say, some of them have enjoyed your work and say,
No,
I'm not one of you guys. I'm not with you guys.
They haven't enjoyed my work.
I've definitely read bits on the internet.
Read more.
Do you think a trans woman is a real woman?
This man.
I don't really like the way those questions are formulated. You know, I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well, I'm asking you, in your mind, you know, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
Thank you.
Why not?
Because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant.
I'm interested in people being able to have different choices and having equality of outcome.
Aha, well, so the overwhelming proportion of people who are in prisons are male. Now, do you want to equalize that, just out of curiosity? What about bricklayers? They're 99% male, and we've got about 3/4 of the population now in universities in the humanities and social sciences are female.
Yeah.
Are we going to equalize that? And men work longer hours, they work more dangerous jobs, they're more likely to move, they're more likely to work outside. They're more likely to participate in jobs in the STEM fields that are scalable. They make more money for those reasons. And that's all hidden under the idea that the reason that men and women make different amounts of money is because of their gender. It's a very simplistic analysis.
Why are you against the use of alternate pronouns?
I'm against the use of legislation to determine what words that myself and other people are required to utter.
But would you use alternate pronouns if a student asked you to?
I think I've made my position on that clear already.
Well, perhaps not to our audience at home who are just being introduced to this. Would you use alternate pronouns? And why not?
Because I don't believe that other people have the right to determine what language I use, especially when it's backed by punitive legislation.
Simple as that.
And when the words that are being required are the constructions, they're artificial constructions of people I regard as radical ideologues whose viewpoint I do not share.
Until women got full legal rights, they could own property for themselves, they could work. Essentially, they were owned. They were first owned by their fathers and then by their husbands.
Status to the domination by men.
Yeah.
You already said that you thought that what emancipated women primarily in the 20th century was technological revolution.
No, not primarily, but that's one of two. I think that's two things.
It's not primarily, eh?
No,
you don't think the pill was a primary force in the emancipation of women?
I think
or the invention of tampons, let's say, or the provision of proper sanitary facilities, toilets, and that sort of thing. You're thinking instead it was the action of courageous feminists in the 1920s that produced a social revolution that overthrew the patriarchy. That's your theory.
Yeah, I think
that's a foolish theory.
He's definitely
That's pure narcissism at work, by the way.
I saw that coming. I mean, why would you do such a thing?
You know, to hijack an event like this that other people put time and effort into, and to use their civility of the crowd and the civility of the organizers as an excuse to blatantly yell out your ill-informed opinions is no way to conduct a civil dialogue. It's absolutely appalling. The people who do that should be embarrassed.
My idea of the patriarchy is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
A very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
But I could say equally well that most rape victims are women. Terrible things happen to people of both sexes.
And you could say that with perfect utility, but that doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of a male-dominated patriarchy.
I would say that anybody with more than a cursory knowledge of 20th century history who dares to claim simultaneously that they have compassion for the downtrodden and that they're Marxists are revealing either an ignorance of history that's so astounding that it's actually a form of miracle, or a kind of malevolence that's so reprehensible that it's almost unspeakable. Because we already ran the equity experiment over the course of the 20th century, and we already know what the Marxist doctrines have done for oppressed people all around the world, and the answer to that mostly was imprison them, enslave them, work them to death, or execute them. And as far as I can tell, that's not precisely commensurate with any message of compassion. Sorry, tried that, didn't work. We got 100 million corpses to prove it, and that's plenty for me. And if it's not enough for you, well then you should do some serious thinking either about your historical knowledge or about your moral character.
Question for Professor Peterson. Why do you feel that someone's personal gender identity and pronouns infringes your free speech? Can one not also argue, based on your interpretation, that professors can use racial slurs in their classroom and that the inability to do so would violate their freedom of speech?
There's a difference between saying that there's something you can't say and saying that there are things that you have to say. And I regard these made-up pronouns, all of them, as the neologisms of radical PC authoritarians. Do you understand that? And I'm not a fan of that sort of person. And the reason I'm not a fan of that sort of person is because I've done my homework. I've read everything I can get my hands on in the development of authoritarian political systems, and I know the literature inside out and backwards. And I am not going to be a mouthpiece for language that I detest.
Thank you.
And that's that.
This whole patriarchy thing, I think you have no idea how pernicious and dangerous it is.
Well, no, I don't. I really don't. Go on.
Throughout history have fundamentally cooperated to push back against the absolute catastrophe of existence. A terrible death rate, the probability of chronic starvation, early death, disease, the difficulty of raising children, with all the death that was associated with that. And to look backwards in time and say, well, basically what happened was men took the upper hand and persecuted women in this tyrannical patriarchy. It's absolutely dreadful misreading of history. It's a terrible thing to teach young women, and it's a horrible thing to inflict upon men.
When the Marxists say, well, that wasn't real Marxism, what it really means, and I've thought about this for a long time, it's the most arrogant possible statement anyone could ever make. It means, if I would have been in Stalin's position, I would have ushered in the damn utopia instead of the genocidal massacres, because I understand the doctrine of Marxism and everything about me is good. It's like, well, think again, sunshine. You don't understand it. You don't understand it. And you're not that good. And if the power was in your hands, assuming you had the competence, which you don't, you wouldn't have done any better. And even if you had, there would have been someone else waiting right behind you to shoot you the first time you actually tried to do anything good. And that's what happened to all the old guard who ran the damn revolution. Stalin rounded them all up and shot them, along with their families and millions of other people. So even if you do happen to be that avatar of moral purity that you claim implicitly, the probability that you'd get to act out your goodness in relationship to those possessed by your ideology is zero.
Is being sensitive to offence such a problem though? Like, we would have previously called that manners.
It's a terrible problem.
So imagine you, okay, so the rule is you can't offend anyone, all right? Let's say you're speaking to one person, I can't offend you. All right, fair enough. What if I'm speaking to 10 people? Do I get to offend 1 in 10? How about 1 in 100? How about 1 in 1,000? You're going to come out on stage and you're going to say something important about something vital, and you're not going to offend 1 person in 1,000? Well, you can't say anything about anything important ever without offending probably the person you're talking to. Important speech about important issues, especially contentious issues, is instantly offensive.
Yep. He's definitely got his facts right.
Yeah, like
he knows when to speak, and he doesn't even allow anybody to intimidate him with whatever you want to say.
Yeah, because thank you.
And he retains his stand. When his stand is where, no matter what you say, he's not moving. He just wants you to understand that he's not offended. Like, he's just who he is.
If I try making a lot of research, so any thing you want to bring out is ready to back it out with you. Those pronouns, he guy saying is a female or a guy saying is those things. There's no way you will not annoy someone else.
Exactly. It's what you think.
Yeah, there's no way, because some people will be like, you're not trying to refer me with the right pronoun. Like, okay, me seeing you as a guy, I want to identify you as a guy, but not knowing you yourself, you identify as a she, then I identify you as a he. Well, now you're already offended. You're offended for who? You're offended.
It happens at times. There are sometimes when you even go around in town, you see some ladies that have male features and all that, and if you are sometimes you get caught up, you don't know whether to refer to them as a he or a she. So no matter what you do, you end up offending somebody. It's not everybody would be impressed with whatever that you say. So for that one, every single day you offend somebody. So I think what he's saying is just...
It's true. I love this man. I love his thoughts, and his comeback was incredible. Like, just really, really incredible. Something some people don't expect from him. But
I think there are some of the things that even you as a normal person, sometimes you feel like these are rational things that you don't expect people to do. You can just imagine the part where they left off the stage and they were spraying something. You can just imagine if someone has an asthma attack or something, anything at all can happen. So you do this, and at the point I was like, what the hell? What's happening here? Why would you be spraying all this in the midst of so many people?
yeah,
It's
true. This was amazing. This was an amazing comeback. Peterson kept being Peterson. He kept being Peterson. This was interesting, and I love how he took his stand. He don't want anyone to bully him or talk down at him. He knows what he's talking about, and he's 100% right. If you don't accept him, then you stay aside.
Exactly. So I think I've learned a lesson from him. That is, you need to widen your scope as an individual. Yeah. When you have your facts right, you have that sort of confidence. No matter where you go, you know what you're talking about, and you don't allow anybody's opinion to influence you.
Yes, true.
Because you see, at times that people begin to speak, and along the way, they get influenced by what their other colleagues are saying, because they don't really understand what they are talking about. But this man has his grounds. He knows what he's talking about. So no matter what your opinion is, it doesn't really affect his decision. At the end of the day, what he wants to say is what he arrives at.
True. That is amazing. This was really amazing and also educative. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video as many as you can. Subscribe to our channel, guys. See you guys in the next video. Make sure you stay safe.
I just want a bag, like an old lady. I'm backwoods smoking, I don't own papers, pass that 808. That don't shake her. Oh, bitch, you know I'm grinding like a pro skater. Baby mama bugging, I'm so quick to hit ignore. Buku bitches in my bed, I got scales all